Welcome to the first of the CNR meetings for this year. Do we have any apologies? No apologies.
Perhaps about the Mayor.
2 o'clock.
Yep, so we've got just, so Councillor Bryan will be leaving just after 2 o'clock and an apology from the Mayor. So I'll move that those apologies be accepted. Can I have a seconder, please? Thank you, Councillor Blakey. Conflicts of interest, are there any? No, thank you. Confirmation of minutes. Who would like to move that they're confirmed as a true and correct record of? Yep, thank you, Councillor Mellings. Anybody like to second? I'll second it. All those in favour, please say aye. Those against say no. Any matters arising from those minutes? No. So we do have a deputation, and I'll call on Leslie to come forward now. Come on forward, Leslie. So, Leslie, you have 10 minutes to give your presentation or your deputation. Fortunately, the governance team has already sent you or sent through to all the councillors information about natural burials. So, yeah, you've only got 10 minutes. Give us all the important points that you want to get across from your presentation, and then allow at least a little bit of time at the end so we can actually ask you questions. Is that all right? Excellent.
Kia ora everyone, my name is Leslie Hurley. Don't leave my finger on this thing, do I? I live between Kaipoi and Ohoka, and I am passionate about protecting the environment for future generations. That's my motto, and it would be really great to think that our death would nourish the restoration of the land to a more natural state. And I've been reading and learning a bit about natural burials because I'm following my sister's footsteps. She's involved in Past North at the moment, and they've got a site and they're doing lots of work up there. And so I've been researching it, and it's been really interesting to see that, it's been since 2008, which you would have read in the information I've given you. That's in New Zealand, but in the UK it's been over 30 years, and they've had natural cemeteries, and over half the burials in the UK are natural. And it's all about I saw a video of the late great Jennifer Simons when she started up the Thames Natural Burial Cemetery, saying we spend all our lives being healthy, and then we get pumped full of formaldehyde, which then can leach into the groundwater. And just the idea, I don't like the idea of being embalmed or having a toxic chemical going into the environment. And burials can be just so much more simpler than what we've seen over the years. It's really good if you can have a coffin that's not got treated timber, or even a flax weaving or a shroud or something like that, things that are not going to contaminate the environment. And it sounds like the Natural Burial Organisation will help the councils with all the information and all the research they've done. And I think it started first in Wellington by some man, I can't remember his name, but he's a really good speaker apparently, my sister says, and he lost a child or something, and he wanted to do the whole natural burial, started it all up, and so Wellington was the first place. What else was I going to say? So there's just lots of different steps. The funeral directors have to come on board because they have to make sure that there's the natural options. But it just seems to me like, it's just a growing movement, and it would be great to be able to have that choice in waimakariri. And there's not many places in the South Island that are doing it. And there's Diamond Harbour, but you have to live in Diamond Harbour. Apparently, the Altus has got something, but they've not been certified yet, so they haven't met all the requirements yet. But the information will tell you really it's 18 throughout New Zealand, and only 4 in the South Island that are doing natural burials. And it's just there's certain requirements, like you're in shallower ground, so you decompose more. And so I've gone off the whole idea about being cremated, because apparently that creates air pollution, and I'm all about as being as clean as possible. Is that enough information? Because you've got all the other information.
Yes, it's really lovely. Thank you very much for that, Leslie. Who has the first question, Leslie? Does anybody have any question? Thanks, Councillor Barton.
Thanks, Leslie. It seems like a really good idea. 2 questions. What's the downside of it? What are the regulatory downside of it? Do you know? And why are there only was it 400 have happened in New Zealand? If it's such a good idea, I think it might be. Why are we only done 400 today?
Well, I did some research and it is actually reasonably expensive, so maybe that's why some people get put off. But to me, I think the environment is more important than money. I read that, in Dunedin, that a cemetery plot would cost $2,000 to $3,000 and the interment $1,000 to $2,000. So it's still expensive with a natural burial. That might be one reason. But I don't know. I'm not sure about the whole regulations, but it's happening really successfully throughout other places in New Zealand, and maybe just people don't realise that option is there.
Is there any reason why it's so expensive, Leslie? Is that just?
I think burials are way more expensive than cremations, aren't they? So I guess it's just the whole. That was Dunedin that I researched, but cemetery plots, interment, and then there's a maintenance fee as well. But
and when you talk about being certified, can you explain
all the
that?
standards have to be met. Like everything, and when a coffin is. The funeral directors have to be on board, but the coffin's not allowed to have anything toxic in it as well, and everything has to be done in a really natural way.
So if we were to do this, we'd almost have to have some, because there's no funeral directors in Canterbury either that are
certified.
Or are they natural, or are there any funeral directors? I couldn't find you.
I haven't done that research. My sister probably knows better about that than Palmerston, but I think once they knew that there was a demand, I'm sure that they would start, because they want to have the customers, and I'm sure they'd start looking at, even any trinket or any precious things that go into the coffin as well needs to be from natural materials. And,
so in terms of, are you representing any group, or have you
No,
spoken to anybody?
Leslie Lottie is on board. She's from Eco Educate, and she was very keen, and she said, "Oh, sorry, she couldn't come with me today." So we all know Leslie Lottie, don't we? I think most of us do. She teaches all the schools about recycling, and she's keen. And I'm sure I just have been quite busy with a relative who's not well, so I haven't really had a chance to go around. But even some of the community gardens, I'd like to maybe talk to them and just see who other people, if we need to get a bigger group. But I just feel certain that it's just the way that we're moving towards, that a lot of people would like that option in North Canterbury.
That sounds lovely. So my thoughts are that what we do is we call for the staff to put together a report to come back to the CNR committee to establish as to the viability of having natural burials in the Waimakariri district. What was the committee's thoughts on that? So then, Councillor Regan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Perhaps a question for Chris. I seem to recall when we looked at the cemetery policy, we made provision for alternative burials of some sort, and I can't really remember what they were. Are you able to enlighten us?
So
what options we already had?
Natural burials were one of the burials that we identified in the strategy as one of the options that we might have to consider in the future. But at the time of doing it, we said it's something we might have to consider, but we didn't have demand for it, and no one's actually asked if they can be buried in that way. So we haven't identified any specific area within any cemetery to be used in that way. So we'd have to go away now and have a look at the different cemeteries we've got and where it might be appropriate for a natural burial to be. And some cemeteries it wouldn't be appropriate, and others like the new Dixon's Road one, like Cust Cemetery, places like that, there's a lot of additional land, and normal burials would be able to continue for many decades if a natural burial was taking up some of that space as well. So we can come back with a report that identifies where those spaces might be and what the process is around natural burials, and bring it to CNR for their consideration. But it is in line with the strategy that we've got here.
Okay. Do we need to formalise that? Do we need to move a motion that a report be brought back to council or back to this group for yes, no?
You can, but you don't really have a report to move a motion against.
No, exactly.
But governance will bang down on my door relentlessly with the action if I don't complete it. So
is everybody happy with that? That the team come back with a report? Well, there you go. This is the start, Leslie. So thank you very much for taking the time to actually come and present and also provide all the information that you've given us. And keep an eye on the CNR reports or the agendas and the minutes, and you'll see the progress in terms of natural burials. All right. So thank you.
Thank you very much for hearing me, and it's just nice to be able to meet the spiritual and optimal needs of everybody, and having that option would be great. Thank you.
Thanks, Leslie. Right, we're moving now on to reports, and we'll call on Kat. Welcome, Kat.
So I am here to present the proposed allocations from the November round of the biodiversity contestable fund. There's a number of projects here. I guess I'm fairly happy to kind of take the report as read and move, fairly swiftly to questions if you have any questions about the individual projects or the Kiwi Trust and the work they do, if that's not something you're familiar with, as that is sort of the fairly big ticket item.
Yeah, all right. Thank you, Kat. Who has the first question, Kat? Does anybody have any questions? Yes, Councillor Williams.
Yes. With, for example, on C, riparian planting along the Cass Stream, do those people consult with their drainage staff before the planting's happened? And why I'm asking that question, we've got a lot of planting along, riparian planting along streams, and all of a sudden they can't get cleaned when they need to and create flooding. And people get really upset when you get a digger that rolls across the top of it to newly planted. So do they liaise with their drainage staff before they do the planting, particularly if the council's paying?
So Jim often sort of gets involved in sort of liaising between the drainage team and projects like this. I can go away and I can double check that has occurred in this instance.
That would be good, because that is important.
Good stuff. Thanks, Councillor. Councillor Blakey.
Thanks, Kate. The cost of that fence up at Thingy Road, in your report it says 2 hot wires and Waratahs and priced it at $8,000, which comes out at about $10,000 a kilometre. Which does that mean the fence is only 2 hot wires, or does that mean it's a farm type fence with 2 hot wires in it?
For a bush project.
With the bow.
So that's I believe that's sort of a standard deer fence.
No, there's deer fencing. That's separate. Yeah. There's a wetland, the wetland fence, not the deer fence.
Yeah. So I believe what we've been asked to contribute to is the cost of that sort of deer fence on block A, rather than the small wetland fences. But I can bring the committee and seek some more clarity about wetland fencing.
No, that's right. I just wasn't clear whether the fence was just two hot wires or whether it was a proper fence with some hot wires added.
I believe it's a proper fence with some hot wires. Added. Yeah. But I can double check that.
Thank you.
I've just got one quick question, Kate, and that is on page 47 of Diligent, and that relates to traffic management. Is there that much traffic movement on that particular road to require us to spend $3,000 or in excess of $3,000?
So that estimate came from Environment Canterbury. Okay. They assessed that was necessary. But yeah, I can check our roading team as to whether after doing that same assessment they believe that to be the case.
Probably at the higher end, I would imagine. Thank you.
Yeah, I think I suspect that using our own contractors, we'd be able to get that done at a much lower rate than Environment Canterbury, so that we don't have that as a standard in-house thing.
All right, thank you, Kate. Would anybody like to test the motion? Test the committee? Would anybody like to move?
I'll move.
All right. Thank you. And Philip, a second. Thank you. Would you like to speak to that?
No, it's all pretty good. Good report, Kate.
Councillor Redmond.
Thank you. Yes, a good report. Happy to support the recommendations, and it's good. I read, what some of these projects were, and they're all very good in their own way. They're all slightly different, but all excellent. I was particularly interested in the Sycamore Control in Leeds Valley, having been there a few times in the last 2 or 3 years. And the good thing is that funding has been found from other sources, and that we still will leave a reasonably healthy balance available for further application. So it's a good report really, where we can say yes to everything and still have money left. So thank you.
Anybody else would like to speak to the recommendation? Thank you, Kate. Yes, it's a substantial report, and I love all of the pictures and all that sort of stuff. So, yeah, a lot of work, and thank you very much for that.
Thank you.
Councillor Blakey, would you like to respond? So, put the recommendation A through to F. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Those against say no. So it's carried. Well done, Kate. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
We'll now move on to 5.2, which is Youth Action Plan, and we welcome Lexi and also Lauren. So Lexi, this is your second turn at presenting, so you'll be well versed with this, where this is your first opportunity, Lauren, is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So how long have you been with council?
It's been about 6 weeks now.
Oh, right. Baptism of fire. So I'll put a warning out to the councillors to go easy on you. Is that right?
Much appreciated.
All right. So the Youth Action Plan. Thanks.
So thank you, Mr. Chair, and good afternoon, committee members. So we will take the report as read. The purpose of the report and why we're here today is to seek approval to establish an advisory group for the development of the Youth Action Plan, as well as the corresponding terms of reference to that group. So I'll hand over to Lauren to give you a bit more of the context behind the youth strategy, which is the groundwork for the action plan that we'll be developing.
Thank you, Lexi. So I'll be talking about the 2018 Youth Strategy, which is the guiding document for the Waimakariri District Council's Youth Development Plan. So the current youth strategy is based off of 4 different key goals, and I'm going to share 1 or 2 highlights of the work we've been doing to achieve those goals. So the first goal is that young people have the support and opportunity to grow, develop, and maximize their potential. One key way we've been doing this is that the Youth Development Facilitator plays a key role in North Canterbury Youth Futures Career Expo. So we've been involved with this event since 2020, putting on 3 expos alongside Rangiora High School, Ministry of Education, Enterprise North Canterbury, ComCall, and the Ministry of Social Development. We have over 60 exhibitors involved at this event, and attendance has been consistently high at these. We had 1,300 attendees last year who learned about potential local career pathways and also connected with local employers. Another key example for this goal is that we've joined the Mayor's Task Force for Jobs program in 2023. So the vision of this program is to have all 16 to 24-year-olds engage in employment or education within their local communities. In the first full year of operation, the program achieved nearly 3 times its contracted outcomes, and for the 2024 to 2025 program year, targeted outcomes were achieved in the first half of the financial year. Our program has delivered training and support in work readiness, driving licenses, pastoral care, and financial support to local young people and the employers who have given them opportunities. Moving on to the second goal, young people are connected to their community and invested with a sense of belonging. So we do this in part through our Y Youth Action Group, which sits underneath the Youth Council and is responsible for putting on events throughout the year. So some key examples of events we've done is Zoom events for youth during lockdown. We've hosted a disco at Rangiora High to raise money for Youthline, and we've also hosted several river cleanup and planting events. So these events are youth-led, but have consistently attracted volunteers, around 60 to 70 volunteers of all ages. And moving on to goal 3, young people have a voice that is valued and they are provided with worthwhile activities and opportunities. So one key way we've done this is through the Youth Council. For those who are unfamiliar, the Youth Council is made up of 15 youth aged between 12 to 24 who represent the voice of youth across the district to the council and also do their own initiatives. So one key area that the Youth Council works in is that they distribute a youth takeover survey each year, which informs their work for the year ahead. In 2024, we collected over 250 responses from youth across the district, which is a very significant response rate compared to other surveys targeting youth in the district. So with the data collected from this survey, the Youth Council made a submission to the long-term plan. Moreover, Youth Council are invited to have input into a range of local and regional council documents, strategies, and initiatives. For example, the Community Development Strategy, the Arts Strategy, the Smoke-Free Policy, the ECAN Public Transport Steering Committee, the Accessibility Strategy, and more. Moving on to the final goal is spaces, places, and services are created and maintained for young people to enjoy. So this is being done in part by the Dudley Park Youth Council Project Group, which is a subgroup of the Youth Council. They focus on implementing improvements to the Dudley Park space to make it more youth and community friendly while engaging local youth and community partners. So far, the Youth Council has facilitated the installation of an activation platform, a mural, and is currently working on getting mounted seating and picnic tables installed as well. We've also held several events in the Dudley Park area with the Dudley Park Launch event, skate jams, community Fridays hosted by the Youth Council in partnership with Youthtown. We've done all these to activate the Dudley Park space for youth. So why are we planning on reviewing the strategy now? There's a few key reasons why we think now is the perfect time for this. So the current youth strategy, though released in 2018, is based largely on data from the 2013 census. So society and youth in particular have gone through major shifts since 2013, with example being rapidly changing social media dynamics, COVID-19, etc. There's also been major demographic changes across the district between 2013 and 2023, with seeing an over 20.9% increase in the youth population in the district during that time. This is particularly stark in areas such as Pegasus and Sovereign Palms, which have more than doubled their youth population since 2013. We've also seen a growing importance of mental health issues to youth, which we believe that a new action plan should focus on. So in 2024 Youth Takeover Survey, 52% of youth respondents indicated that mental health was their biggest concern. Moreover, data from the Social Investment Agency indicates that youth aged 15 to 24 in the waimakariri district have nearly double the amount of mental health diagnoses and referrals to mental health services than the national average. And this contrasts a lot with non-age specific data for the district, which is actually below the national average on both of these points. So because of these three reasons, we believe an action plan is needed to capture and respond to these key shifts in the youth population and to also better address the growing well-being needs of the youth in the district.
So just to add to that quickly in terms of those additional reasons, it was recognised whenever the council was reviewing our strategy framework that we had quite a number of strategies that were at this council, so it was recommended that we condense those down. And with the review of the community development strategy at the moment, there was recognition that the strategy for youth could be better served as an action plan under this document where it will be receiving its strategic direction. As we've mentioned briefly in the report as well, we've recognised that being able to engage successfully with the full range of 12 to 24-year-olds is going to be one of our most significant problems with this project. So in terms of being able to produce a well-rounded action plan that accounts for the needs of all of our rangatahi, we have identified that having an advisory group is going to be a crucial point for this project. And also making sure that we're able to include representation from a range of different stakeholders as well as our local young people is going to be really important as well. So it's intended that the group is going to be primarily formed of youth where possible because they are the subject matter experts on this topic. And just briefly to update on engagement with Ngāi Tuahiri, we will be monitoring for any response from them at any time of the project and we'll welcome their involvement at any time of the development of the action plan as well. So I hope that that's provided a little bit more context behind the content of that report, and we're happy to take any questions as well.
Thank you, Laura. Thank you, Lexi. I don't want to throw Councillor Mellings under the bus, but you are the representative on the Youth Council. Would you like to make any comment with regard to Youth Action Plan, or you're happy with the way it is at the moment?
I think it's a really good time to review this because it was last done in 2018 when Sam, many youth coordinators ago, helped devise this. And as in 3.3, you can see the population of youth has really markedly changed. And also, I think it's really important that we acknowledge the fact that the youth group that we have right now, these 12 to 24-year-olds, are the earthquake generation. They're different. They have different needs, they have different issues, and they're now a bigger part of our community as well, and that there are more than there were in the past as well. And I just think that we need to make sure that this strategy is fit for purpose and future ready, really. So I think it's a really good opportunity to review it as it falls under the community strategy.
Thank you, Councillor. First question, Councillor Redmond.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for your presentation. I notice in the terms of reference, membership comprises 18 persons. That's quite a big number to hold a meeting. That's the first point you may like to comment on. The second one is I note there are no elected members as part of that group, and is there a reason for that?
Yes, I'm happy to answer both of those questions. In reference to the number that we have in an advisory group, that is ideally the groups that we're wanting to send those invitations to. We also respect the choice made by those stakeholders to not partake in the advisory group as well. So that's not necessarily to say that we will have 18 members on the group, but just that that's where those invitations will be sent. In reference to not having an elected member on the advisory group specifically, we do have an elected member on the project control group, so there will be oversight within that group. And that group will be meeting prior to those advisory group meetings every week and having recaps and updates on how it's going as well.
Right, so who are members of the project control group?
Councillor Cairns is on the project control group alongside Chris Brown, myself, Lauren, Tessa Sterling and Sylvia Doherty.
Right, so will you be on both groups? As I know, it includes a graduate policy.
Yes, that would be me. So in terms of my role in the project control group, it will be around facilitating and minute taking. So it will be my presence in the group.
Thank you. Who else has a question here? Thanks, Councillor Williams.
Yes, just would like to know, how do you get this out to the rest of the youth around Waimakariri? What do you, social media or, because I've never actually, I'm probably a bit too old to follow your type of social media, but how do you get out to the rest of the young people that you've got groups like this going and everything happening?
I'm happy to take that one, but Lexi, feel free to jump in. So I think we are planning on utilizing social media a little bit, but we are aware that we'd rather go where the youth are. So we would be planning lots of school visits and kind of keeping our finger on the pulse of events happening in the community that we know that youth are going to go to, like sporting events and things like that, to actually go there ourselves and hand out surveys and kind of questionnaires and things like that there. We're also planning to get a bit creative and hang out at bus stops and things like that where we think that we might interact with some youth. So we're planning to kind of take a multifaceted approach to that one.
And I think just to add to that as well, we've already started working fairly closely with the comms team in developing the communications plan for this project as well. So just making sure, because we know that there's huge developmental differences between a 12 and a 24-year-old, for example. So an engagement method that will appeal to a 12-year-old is quite different to a 24-year-old. So we are working closely in that space to ensure that we'll be able to fill in those gaps as well.
Just a quick question from myself. In terms of the key milestones, which is at 3.7, do I assume in November, December 2025, approval to consult on draft youth action plan, that's to come back to you, is that right? For us to give the approval?
Yes, I believe so. And in terms of the timeline there, that's our best estimate as of right now. So that may be revised coming closer up, but that's all going up.
Right, that's lovely. Who would like to move the recommendation?
Well, okay, I'll move.
Thank you, Councillor Mellons. Thank you, Councillor Blakey is the second. Would you like to speak, Councillor Mellons? You've already given a bit of a good précis anyway.
I think I've probably already said what needs to be said, but it's timely that the strategy is looked at again, and as it being part of the draft community development strategy as well also makes sense. And I think that the action plan that you've got and the ways that you are planning to reach the demographic that you're looking for, I think that looks sound, and I'm sure that you will adjust anything that needs adjusting as you go. But I am very pleased to see this underway and look forward to it benefiting the youth in my district. So, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Blakey is the second.
Be nice to the youth, for they will inherit the earth.
As usual.
Would anybody else like to speak to the motion? I'll just say that dynamic duos, so we'll look forward to seeing the action plan come back to the CNR meeting for sign-off so it can go out for consultation. Thank you very much, ladies. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Those against, say no. So it's carried. Thank you very much, Lauren and Lexi.
Thank you.
Now move on to 5.3, approval of draft community development strategy. And we welcome Tessa and Sylvia. You've got a few strategies on the go, Tessa.
We have indeed. Thank you. This report seeks approval to release the draft Community Development Strategy 2025 to 2035 for public consultation. I'll essentially take the report as read, but would like to highlight a couple of things before I hand over to Sylvia, who will introduce the strategy and its context alongside the other 9 key council strategies. You'll notice an emphasis on the importance of community development provision in creating strong, healthy, safe and resilient communities. The value is in what can be achieved through collaboration between many and varied stakeholders. Community development creates a culture where everyone contributes skills, knowledge, resources and context to address the needs and aspirations of our local residents. The best thing about it is that self-interest is put aside and people work willingly together for the greater good. In front of you, you have a copy of the timeline that's featured on pages 12 and 13 of the strategy document. This illustrates how our local community infrastructure has evolved through this strategic approach over a number of years. The timeline doesn't capture them all, but there are many enduring networks, programs, services and supports that were established as a result of community development in the Waimakariri district. These continue to operate independently in our community, and volunteer transport programs, restorative justice, social connection groups and food security are just a few examples of enduring programs that were developed out of community development. More specifically, if we think about social services Waimakariri, this has been the backbone of local service provision in our district for over 15 years. It came into existence because of community discussions about gaps in local service provision and challenges faced by that sector. Social Services Waimakariri was developed and supported under the wing of the community team and now operates more independently, but in close partnership with council. And this is both as a valuable link into the social sector and more especially with respect to response and recovery from community crises such as civil defence events, the COVID pandemic, where we work closely together to engage with the social sector, bring everyone together and effect a response and the community's recovery. Before I hand over to Sylvia, I really like to acknowledge the work of my team, and you'll see Wendy Powell and many of the community development team that she leads in the development of this draft. They're expert networkers, communicators, and have developed really strong relationships in the community, which means that they're respected enough for people to willingly input into formative development of a strategy like this. So I will hand over to Sylvia.
Thank you, Tessa. The refreshed Whakawhanake Hapori Waimakariri Community Development Strategy is a key strategic document for the Council, sitting alongside other Council strategies, including the recent National Environment Strategy, Integrated transport strategy and economic development strategy that have all been adopted in the last year. This refreshed strategy is based on 4 strategic directions that are a development from the previous community development strategy. So new directions are safe and healthy, welcome and included, informed and empowered, and engaged and connected. Similar to the recent strategies that Council has adopted, this strategy is an all-of-Council approach that recognises the contribution our customer-facing areas of Council play in community development. From green space providing spaces and places, to libraries offering information and programmes, and to our community and engagement team supporting Council conversations with the residents. It's clear that the community team, Tessa's team, plays a key role in the implementation of this strategy. And to recognise this approach, we will be establishing a project control group for the implementation of the strategy that will include staff representation from each of the departments identified in the high-level implementation plan that you'll see at the back of the document. The PCG will meet twice a year, once to confirm the actions in the annual implementation plan, and then secondly to confirm the year in review report. Tessa and I feel that this should provide enough oversight to ensure that the strategy is actively implemented across the Council. So the report today is to seek approval for consultation. This consultation will formally take place after the annual plan consultation in mid-April. A lot of the consultation will involve informing many of the networks that the community team are connected with, and we intend to bring the final version of the strategy for adoption mid-year. Thank you, and Tessa and I are happy to take any questions on this work.
That's lovely. Thanks, Tessa. Thanks, Sylvia. Who has the first question? Thank you, Councillor Redden.
Thank you for your report, very comprehensive timeline. I just wondered, could the name of this strategy be changed in line with government policy to have the English wording first? I think people in the community would understand the name a little bit better, and that appears to be the direction the government is directing itself, and I assume local government to follow. So that would read waimakariri community development strategy, and then if you wish, and I have trouble saying it, waimakariri second. Is there a problem with that direction?
Thank you, Philip. That is something for consideration.
Is that something this committee can assist you with?
If this committee would like us to change it around before we actually produce the document and then go out for consultation, then this committee can add that as a recommendation to the report if they want to now.
So we can see what other members.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes.
Councillor Williams.
Yes, financial implications, got that budget is included in the annual plan. What is the budget, please?
The budget is the budget that was approved in the annual plan for community development. So in terms of delivery of the community development strategy, any projects that are identified and developed as part of the implementation of the strategy are delivered by external funding. So if you talk about ratepayer commitment, that's the key staffing roles. And you'll note that we have a couple of roles that are project-based, which are independently funded. So that includes the Mayor's Task Force for Jobs role, where we got funding for a now 3-year contract, and the Welcoming Communities role, where there's funding for a 3-year contract. And that's where you have a finite project. So any project costs are independently funded, often through central government agencies, funding bodies, but also through philanthropic funding bodies.
So there must be a cost for this particular project here for the council.
Strategy.
So it is.
How much is it?
So it is staff time. So if you would like us to come back and let you know how much of a proportion of the staff time operational budget is being put towards this, then we can work that out. But it's not just the staff time of the community development team, it's also the assistance from the strategy team as well, who put together the strategy. So the strategy team has a series of work across all of the different areas of work that we've got, and they put their time towards those. And equally, the community team identifies time that they can put towards the development of strategies they've got as well. So it's operational staff time budget.
To get a budget in the first place though, surely you must have to work out what it's going to cost, so it should be at your fingertips. Or
So
just
this
take out-
budget's been approved already by council to go out for public consultation. Like I said, if you would like us to get you a list of all the things which the community team is going to go over next year and then give you an indication of the amount of time that's going to be allocated specifically towards the development of the strategy, then I can get that, but I don't have it on hand right now.
Yeah, I was only concerned about this particular one here, how much is the budget for that?
Because when you consider, councillor, you've got like welcoming communities that's funded by central government.
I'm just talking about this, if you're going to put this into a budget, you must have a figure for this proportion of it goes into the budget. That's just business sense. So there must be a budget for it.
Could I get some clarity on that, Councillor Williams? Are you referring to the cost of the development of the strategy? Is that
Well, the cost of what the recommendation is recommending today must be.
so you're referring to the cost of the community consultation?
Well, everything that's pertained to this strategy.
So is that the development of the strategy or the actual implementation of the strategy once it's been developed? Because there is a distinction between the two, and Tessa was trying to make that point that it's staff time that develops the strategy, consults with the strategy, but then most of the actual delivery of the items within the strategy are either done by external parties with external money or done by us with external money as well. There's not a lot of delivery that we actually do. So there's which of those would you like us to bring back information about?
You're probably not quite getting the point. If you're going to do a budget, any business budget, you must have to have a costings approximately what you're going to put into it. So that's the short answer.
We don't have. We know a program of work and we know the amount of staff that it's going to take to deliver that program of work, and that's what's identified in our operational budget at the moment. So, like I said, if you want me to get that information for you, I can, but I don't have it on hand.
Additionally, if you're talking about the implementation of the strategy, a budget is produced project by project as the projects are identified, and that budget is submitted to funders along with the various contributions. So there will be times when a project might have several different funders and resourcing in kind that contributes to the cost of the project. And all of that is pulled together as part of the application for funding to support the project. So yes, there is a budget, but that budget is project specific.
That's lovely, Tessa. Thank you very much for that. And what we'll do is we'll ask Chris to actually send through those budget numbers so that you're clear in your own mind as to the answer that you're looking for. Who has any other questions? Thanks, Councillor Mills.
Thank you, Tessa. I know that this strategy is really just pulling together all of the varying parties, for instance, that sit around this table for social services, waimakariri, for instance. So those are all externals, and you're just coordinating them into something coherent for them to enable them to work together, and I understand that. On your page 148, I don't know if it's a good time to point out some things that might need to be fixed, or if I should get back to you later. But on page 148, you've got Waimakariri Youth Council in there twice on the list of key community partners. Right, as an accident. And I also note, being a member of the Alcohol and Drug Harm Prevention Steering Group, that there's some incorrect info on page 197 about that. They meet bi-monthly, so they meet 6 times a year. Not 6 monthly, and just check, please, perhaps with Alyssa for the stakeholders, because that's not entirely up to date.
Yes, we anticipated having to review a few of those networks because they have been changing a wee bit over recent times. So, thank you.
But otherwise, I'm
we're doing here is great and warranted. So, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Would anybody like to move? And Councillor Redmond, you're wanting to move. Would you like to make that change at this point in terms of swapping over B? So the reading would be Waimakariri Community Development Strategy, Whakawhanaki, Hapori o Waimakariri 2025-235. Is that right?
Mr. Chair, you read my mind.
I thought you might. So those changes, who would like to second that? Yep, all right. Thank you, Councillor Blakey. Would you like to speak, Councillor Redmond?
Yes, just briefly, you can see from this the breadth of involvement of Tessa and the community team, and this is very important work in the district. Community development is very important, and I'm reminded that David Ayres was very interested in promoting that in the Pegasus area, being a new town, and getting community buy-in, and worked hard, as I understand it, in that space. So this is a very important part of Council's current role under the 4 wellbeings. And I'm going to Wellington later in the week when we'll be hearing from the government, and I'll be interested to know how the government view community development in light of their core direction when they're looking at bricks and mortar. I think people are just as important. So it'll be interesting to see what their definition of core is, and I think it would be very unusual if they don't include community development as part of the core activity. So very supportive, and you may think I'm being pedantic wanting the name reversed, but 90% of us do speak English, and I think following the government's direction that the English name should go first, so you'll understand exactly what we're talking about. So having said that, I'm very happy to support the recommendation.
Excellent. Councillor Blakey?
I think you know Philip's covered it well.
And I'll just make a comment. I'm reminded of Jim Palmer. He said after the earthquakes that it's not about the amount of mileage of pipes that we fix, but how people get through what happened during the earthquakes. And I also look at Tessa and your team in terms of you look after neighbourhoods, you look after migrants, welcoming communities, accessibility, and the development strategy centres directly about the outcomes of outcomes affecting people. It's all, what is it, hei tangata, hei tangata, hei tangata. It's all about people. So, yeah, I'm certainly in favour of approving this going out to public consultation. Would you like to write a reply, Councillor Redmond? Oh, sorry. Councillor Mellings.
I just want to congratulate you on pulling together what looks like a great strategy, and having had a hand in a lot of these things that you're pulling together and sat alongside you as we've gone through a lot of these things, and as things like the Food Secure North Canterbury and Next Steps website have been developed in the civil defence, community emergency hubs, youth council, alcohol and drug steering group, social services, all of those things. It's all about people, and that's what you do. You know, the fact that the DIA gave us a vehicle, gave us really to commemorate and acknowledge, I guess, the Waimakariri Way. The fact that there is such a phrase, the Waimakariri Way, is really notable, and I think is a huge acknowledgement of the work that you and the team put in. And I will be very interested to see what the community have to say about this, and I'm very happy to support it with the consultation. So thank you, well done, and we'll see you later.
Write a reply.
Just very briefly, I'll put it to you, Mr. Chair, that community development is a core activity of this council, and one of the reasons why we're a leader in this space and why we're different to other areas. So a lot of credit for that has to go to Tessa and her team, so I acknowledge that. So I will be interested to see how the new government regard community development, and if they agree with my view that it is a core activity. So I encourage colleagues to support the recommendation.
Now, if I may speak out of turn in terms of we should recognise who's in the back of the room, which is part of Tessa's team, because if we're talking about people, then we should actually name them, and that's Caroline, Amy, Martin, Wendy, and of course Tessa, who's leading the team. Hopefully I haven't missed out too many others. But yeah. Oh, sorry, Laura. Forgive me, Laura. But thank you very much, Tessa. So we'll put it to the vote. All those in favour, please say aye. Those against say no. So the motion is carried. Thank you very much, Tessa, and her team. So, and thank you, Sylvia, as well. Now we're moving on to 5.4. Tessa staying. So we've got another strategy being developed by Tessa and her team. This time, Martin, you're part of the team as well.
Yes, we're back. Thank you. So this report seeks approval to release the draft inclusive waimakariri plan that you have attached for community consultation. I will essentially take this report as read, but would like to highlight the value of this plan in framing Council's commitment toward a district where everyone has equitable access to its places, spaces, services and supports. This plan, as you'll see, is a review of the accessibility strategy 2017 to 2021, and others have mentioned rationalisation to some overriding strategies and the reworking of some strategies to an action plan, and this is the case with the accessibility strategy. Despite a stalling over the COVID period, extensive engagement has informed the development of the strategy that you have before you. This involved stakeholders from social, health and community organisations, and local residents impacted themselves by physical, mental or cognitive impairment. But also, and importantly, because this document centres on Council's role in the creation of more accessible, inclusive communities, a key aspect of formative engagement has been in staff meeting with unit managers to ensure that the priority areas and actions are relevant, appropriate and deliverable. So at this point I'd like to acknowledge Martin Pugh. Martin holds the inclusion portfolio in the community development team, and he actively supports the work of both the Waimakariri Access Group and the Age Friendly Advisory Group, who've had quite a bit of input into this document. Martin has largely guided the formative engagement, both external and internal, towards the drafting of this plan, and will be happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Now, do I assume that we're going to change the names around again, or no? We're going to stick with what we've got there in terms of the recommendation? We don't need to make any changes. Who would like to ask the first question? Tessa, Mark or Martin, is there any comments that you'd like to make in regards to the strategy?
No, I think Tessa summed it up really well, so, yeah.
Who has a question? Any questions? Are you happy with? Oh, sorry, Councillor.
Thank you. I'll talk this one. Martin was actually just a conversation I had in a DPNR briefing, and I think I had this conversation with you, Tessa, on the current work in my life on barriers to access members of my family. And also, for example, the gym trust, who were retrofitting a building, access ramps. Is there an opportunity through our policy or bylaws or some other mechanism to retrospectively require retrofitting of some of our access ways to our public buildings, or with new builds, green builds? Does this sort of encompass this whole, maybe it's more of a regulatory thing, but
Yeah, and you're right, some of the expertise would be with the building unit in terms of the regulatory requirements. My understanding from talking with the building team is that new builds absolutely meet the minimum standards of the building code, and that includes the private and also our buildings. In terms of retrofitting existing buildings, I know that when council departments do update their buildings, as much as possible they seek to make them more accessible. We do have examples of buildings which we still have in our higher portfolio that aren't wheelchair accessible and aren't wheelchair friendly, but those are identified on the council booking form, so you can see which ones are accessible and which ones aren't.
Okay. And just to see degree, there's a subset of the accessibility, but there's actually trip hazards. I'm thinking car parks, potentially. Yes. So our long sort of innocuous barriers in shopping centres and malls and stuff. I don't know whether do the figures support that we have a problem in that area, and if we do, how do we deal with it?
It's a good question again. So the access group act as a sounding board for a lot of council departments when they do have new projects and different programs of works. And one of the common recommendations they make to different council departments is to ensure that there's colour differentiation in anything that sticks out from features. So, for example, bollards that are the same colour as the floor can be quite disguised for a person with low vision and therefore create a hazard. So the basic guidance of the access group, and I'm not an expert in low vision matters, but there's a member of Low Vision NZ on that group. And to sum up kind of what she says is to ensure as much as possible there's colour differentiation between a feature that's in the middle of a pavement or a feature that's in a car park, so that it's more obvious to a person with a lower level of vision.
Okay. Thanks very much.
Who else has a question? No, you're all good. In terms of the recommendation, who would like to move the recommendation, please? All right, I'll move it. So, anybody would like to second it? Thank you, Councillor Redmond. In terms of in terms of the plan going out to consultation, I must acknowledge also Chair Shona Powell and also Martin, who's actually on the accessibility group, and I've got to say that they do an amazing job within that group, and it's quite extraordinary the amount of people that actually come to the accessibility group with ideas, and like the latest playground in Kaiapoi came to the accessibility group before it went back to the community board. I look at the work that that group has done in terms of Waikuku and Pegasus, in terms of putting together accessibility viewing platforms to the beach. There's a huge amount of work that they've done in accessibility and making it more accessible in this district. The seconder is, who was the seconder? Yeah, thank you, Councillor Redmond.
Right, thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Tessa and Martin, for the work you've done here. I think an inclusive community is also a core activity, and we await the government's view on that. So this is a good report, so I don't really have much more to add to that, and thank you for your work.
Any other debate? I agree with Councillor Redmond. It is a core activity. We have to look after everybody that's in the community. We cannot exclude anybody. We bring everybody along. So thank you again. So I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye. Those against say no. It's carried. Thank you very much, Tessa. Thank you very much, Martin, for all the work that you do in this field. Thank you. Right, 5.5, we've now got the herbicide update usage. That's Sophie. Welcome, Sophie. We haven't got Sophie. Sorry, we've got Sophie.
Yeah.
So, Kia ora. This report was also presented for information to the Utilities and Roading Committee back in December 10th of December last year, and it's here for information as well, because a lot of the work is obviously with the herbicide usage also in free spaces or public places for our community. It's a report for information, and it's the the first time that we've tried to standardise how we do reporting for herbicides. So there have been previous reports to council committees, such as in 2016, 2018, 2022, that have looked at herbicide usage, but it hasn't been in a way that we've been able to track how we've done over the years. So what I'm proposing with this report is to report annually and to collect volumes and brand names from contractors on an annual basis for the financial year. And that will also look at additives, for example, which is something that's new that hasn't really been looked at before by our council, because you have both the herbicides that are being used, but also other products that are put in with the herbicide that it might be, that there are, it's quite likely they also have potential impact for humans or the environment. Something to note from the UNR presentation to you, Utilities and Roading Committee, on the 10th of December, was that an extra recommendation was added under D. So there's the list of the report recommendations, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 8. And then a recommendation 9 was added under D, which stated, investigate alternative options for weed control, including spraying over water. In the background for that, I'm happy to, there are members here who raised that point, but the reason for that was added is because our council does do a very small amount of spraying over water, for example, stockwater races where it's not able to access the digger to do mechanical cleaning, or potentially do the consent for use in our drains where it's not possible to do mechanical cleaning. That option's not often used. Like last year, as the report noted, there were no wet drains that were sprayed. But as an opportunity if we need it there. So that's something to investigate, which is if we have to spray over water, are there any other options apart from spraying that we can look at aside from mechanical cleaning and herbicide. So let me take questions on the report.
So you're suggesting, Sophie, that we actually include that as a number 9 in recommendation 9?
There might be questions for governance about how to incorporate a recommendation from another committee.
Yeah, because that was this morning. Is that?
It's gone to,
indeed,
it's gone to both committees, and if they added something, then that's a direction from council already. For completeness, if this committee was happy to add the same recommendation, then it would make life very consistent.
Yeah. Is everybody happy with that suggestion? Yeah. Who else has? I note I wrote to Sophie this morning with regard to year-on-year usage per department and the trends for the data. So is that something that you're going to work on and have as we move forward? You'll actually be able to break it down by department and the various different types of herbicides that we potentially use in each department. Is that going to be easy or hard?
It'll be easier because what we have from, for example, the 2022 report, it wasn't for the financial year, and as you know, herbicide usage is seasonal, so if you take the previous 12 months and when the report was collated, it will give you a different result than if you're trying to do it seasonally. So that's where I'm saying we need to take the financial year and be consistent. Be consistent about how we define usage. I've got a spreadsheet which is going to track it for the future, which is going to per department and have volumes. We have the brand name of the chemical, we have the active herbicide and the concentration, because also concentrations vary. So if you're looking, so there are quite a few things you just need to make sure you capture before you can compare them to actually compare apples with apples.
I get the feeling based on if it's going to 2 committees that people are quite keen on the outcomes of what the usage is of herbicides, so that would be good data to actually have tracking it year on year and its level of consistency. Who has any questions? Thank you, Councillor Williams.
I know we try not to spray on water, but when we do, is there a backup check to see what effect that's having, not so much on the plants we're trying to get rid of, but on the life of these streams or the waterways? Is there a check, to see if we're causing damage, or is it not affecting the wildlife as such and the bugs and all that?
I'll need to double check our consent conditions. I can't remember if consent was a 2012 consent that we have, and I can't remember if there are any requirements if we think we've sprayed into the waterway without, are there any requirements to take samples and no regular requirements for monitoring of sediment downstream, for example. There are a couple of provisions in the herbicide spray management plan, which is a document that we've created for that consent or the consent requirements that talks about making sure you notify if you think there's been an overspray, contacting Fish and Game or contacting the council, because it might be a contractor who's undertaking the work. So it's about contact, but it's not about actually taking samples and monitoring what effect it's had.
So do you think it will be a good thing for us to have a bit of a policy on that for checking downstreams for wildlife, and that means we can answer questions to people that ask the awkward questions about sprays, because we can give the actual evidence, either yes it is good or no it is affecting the, so just like.
So one of the recommendations is the review of the herbicide spray management plan, and it's something that we can put in there as a requirement that we will take a sample downstream after completing the spraying to see that maybe before and after, and that could be something that could be considered that review hasn't taken place yet.
All of the applicators are actually trained and go through that process of training anyway, don't they, Sophie? So they would always be mindful of when they're spraying their water to try and limit that to the very, very minimum.
Yes, so this is just, I think, in response if we do happen to use this spraying of water, when we're spraying the emergent watercress, we're not actually spraying the water as such, we're trying to avoid spraying water, but if there is potential that it's got into the water, I think that, I know consent, I think it's where Paul's saying that we could, sorry, Councillor Williams has said that we could take samples just to see what effect we have downstream after that spray.
Yeah, and I'm thinking, 2 weeks after that type of thing to see whether it's bowled a big area of bugs and growth and of other animals and whatever you call them.
Excellent. Thank you, Councillor Williams. Councillor Redmond.
Thank you, Sophie. Why would we actually spray into water or possibly over water? What are the reasons for doing that?
So some of the reasons that I've been given is an example not in 2023-24, which is the report was compiled for, but for example, along Tram Road a couple of years ago, I can't remember exactly which year, but there were concerns about traffic management, traffic safety, having a mechanical digger there for a long time, with all the cars having to pass or potentially even close Tram Road. So that's when spraying was undertaken under this consent. So that's the kind of, it's where you've got very narrow areas, you have the mechanical digger going along and you're risking safety of traffic. Another example that I have from the stockwater races is that they have limited access, so they can't always get a digger into some areas, and so that's when they might have to use spraying. So it is not the primary option, but it is sometimes the one that's available just due to constraints.
Right, so would the main reason be cost, that it's cheaper?
I'd say for health and safety reasons as well. So for the Tram Road, if you've got a digger going along and you've got moving traffic management, I think people would get frustrated and might do silly things. And so, yeah, I wouldn't say it's just a cost consideration.
Okay, thank you.
Who has any other questions?
Mr. Chair.
I'm not. Are you part of this committee? Councillor Fulton? Oh, you asked a question. Sorry. You can definitely ask questions. Sorry, I thought you were going to move that for a second, you said.
No.
Councillor Fulton.
This is what I'm mistaken. It's just a question. Just this question of the spray auditing, and particularly looking at you've got a base ingredient, glyphosate plus the additives. So you'll be looking at the type of product that's being used, when and how it's being used, but you're not necessarily aware of the formulation. I imagine the formulation is sort of proprietary product sometimes, because that is the key to, that's the secret sauce, isn't it, for every brand, what they add and what's in it.
So correct, we are collecting the brand name, and that does have the active ingredient has to be stated, but the other ingredients, they can be very nondescript or IP restricted information, so they might say surfactant, so that helps the herbicide to spread out on the surface of the leaves.
How does that help out? I think how does that help out information gathering? going through that process, because that's a difficult area. What knowledge do we gain?
So something that potentially the Environmental Protection Authority in New Zealand could look at demanding that other chemicals like surfactants might need to be declared. And that's something I don't know if our council would wish to pursue.
Just about to ask you that, what collaboration do we have with the EPA and could it be stronger? I mean, that's probably a question for the committee.
I think it is good though that the report identifies that EPA are starting to look at some of those surfactants and some of those additives, because I mentioned they probably don't know what's in some of those additives either. So they are taking that seriously and looking at it, and they'll be getting more information. And part of that might be that they do have to start adding the ingredients to the packet, so we know what's in the surfactants as well. But we'll be looking at that closely and reporting that back to UNR and CNR when we know more about what EPA come out with.
Thank you, Councillor Blakey. Would you like to add in, for consistency from the UNR, add in section D, the section 9 that Sophie was talking about? Is that okay? So thank you there. Who would like to second? Thank you, Councillor Redmond. So would you like to speak, Councillor Blakey?
Hello. Start off by answering Paul's question. We've done that research about just before COVID from memory. We working through a group from Lincoln College. Freckles Drain was one of them, Freckles Road Drain, and I forget the other one, and they did exactly what you're asking. They nuked the drain with glyc, and they did a 7 days. There was no detectable evidence of a residue, and they went back in 28 days, and all the vertebrate and invertebrate life in the drain had returned to normal in 28 days. So we have got those figures. It has been done, and we do know that stuff. Yeah, this whole thing's a balance. Nobody likes using herbicides, but I can tell you, having been to France, where my son lives in a town about the size of Kaiapoi with rural roads, if you walk away from this stuff, the word to describe it is a disaster. In 2 years, the brambles and the blackberry are out of control on every rural road, to the point where kids can't walk to school along a road. And on all those roads now, you dare drive off the bitumen onto the verge, because you don't know there are ditches under the grass and under the brambles. And when you walk along, there are cars sitting in the ditches every couple of k's along there where people have pulled off the road. It follows from that the ditches aren't working anymore. The drainage system's gone to hell because the ditches are full of everything. And money-wise, like most councils and countries, they haven't got the manpower or the money to mechanically clean them, and of course there's a downside of that. In the town itself, the footpaths are cracking up with the weeds growing through them. The municipal road thingies in the centre of roads have got the weeds growing up through the concrete. It's bad news, it's bad. So be careful what you wish for if you're saying we would like to get rid of glyphosate and other herbicides. We actually, in our modern world, we cannot do that. We reduce it as far as possible, and Sophie and everyone else is well aware of that. I'm very happy to sit and let EPA and Massey and Lincoln and everybody else come to conclusions. Remember, we're an agricultural expert country. We are the world experts in this field. We don't have to look at overseas figures and research. Our guys are the top guys in the world at this stuff. When EPA or somebody like that says you can't use this stuff, I'll listen. Up till then, I'm comfortable doing what we do. We control it very carefully and very thoroughly. There is we've discussed this before, there is no viable or financial alternative. City Council looked at their hot steam machines, gone, waste of time. Kiwi Care and those other products that they tout, which is basically vinegar, the weeds have grown again in 10 days. There is no feasible alternative at the moment. So we live with what we've got, and you could say reluctantly support the resolution.
Thank you, Councillor Redmond.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I sort of take the view that this report is for information only, having been dealt with the UNR. I chaired that meeting on behalf of Councillor Ward in December, and as a result of discussions at that meeting, I added recommendation 9 to D. So, and that really said investigate alternative options for weed control, including spraying over water. And there is some aversion to spraying over water because of the potential damage to invertebrates and other animal insect life in the water. So I'm more than happy to support this, and if any members here weren't at UNR, do come along to our UNR meetings. And you'll be first to know.
Thank you, Councillor. And I'll just add a small little bit. I look forward, Sophie, to seeing the future reports in regards to our usage year on year, so as we can actually then understand where it's all going or how much we're actually using. I concur with Councillor Blakey is that it's a necessary evil, but if we can utilise the minimal amount of herbicides we can, that's the best idea, but it's certainly the most cost efficient way. Does anybody else? Yep. Councillor Williams?
Just the thoughts that that information's out there, is it possible to, Sophie, to get it to circulate it, in particular to the Kaipoi River Enhancement Group, so the herbicides are, are real bad, so if we can prove that they're not so bad, it's worthwhile getting that information out there and let them decipher it, that's all.
I'll chase that up, Mr. Chair. Green Space will have the full report, or it must be minuted somewhere too. So it came to a meeting.
Right. Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Millers?
Thank you. But having gone over this report in UNR so short of a time ago that I can still remember it then, nothing really has changed in here, except I would just like to reiterate the fact that the council does its utmost to avoid spraying where possible. It has a permit for certain chemicals that it still doesn't even use. It doesn't spray over waterways. It minimizes at every turn the need or the use of spray. And I think that that is a commendable approach that is certainly backed by our residents. And I also really appreciate the fact that there is a no spray register and that people can get on that if they want to put their hand up, if they don't want someone spraying in front of their house or what have you. They can do that too. I'm not sure if that has been added to the website. Just
You know, you time looking to follow up on this committee.
Yeah, and that was raised at the last meeting. But yeah, I think that we're doing as much as we possibly can to avoid the proliferation of chemicals sprayed around the countryside. So thank you for bringing this report. It's quite fascinating, and it'll in time to have a baseline of what's happening out there as a result of the management techniques that we're using will be really interesting in the future. So thank you, Sue.
Any other comment before we give Councillor Blakey the right of reply? Councillor?
Nothing to
No
add.
right of reply? All those in favour for receiving the report say aye.
Aye.
Those against say no. It's carried. Thank you very much for your report, Sophie. It's a lot of work there to try and count all those fluids and those. A lot of work. Thank you. So we're moving on to 5.6, libraries update, and we call on Luke. Welcome, Luke.
Thank you.
Haere mai.
Kia ora koutou everyone. My pleasure to be presenting the libraries update for us. I will take the report largely as read, but will bring 2 points to your attention. The first being 4.2, which is an update on our shelving replacement project at Trevor Inch Memorial Library in Mount. So we now have some dates which the library will be closed for us to undertake that work. So beginning on the 16th of March and concluding on the 30th of March, we'll be replacing the shelving within the library, which this goes back quite a long while, so I don't really need to get into too much to the detail as to why we're doing that work. But the vendor that we're working with for this project is in workspaces that have recently fitted out libraries, including the new Benham Library, which opened in May 2023, and also more recently Ashburton Library as well. So we've got some products that we've chosen then that we're intending on keeping for our eventual library extension, so they have a reasonably long shelf life. So in terms of the ergonomics of those products, quite a lot's been said today about accessibility, and one thing we're really looking forward to is that space becoming more accessible, and those thoroughfares for wheelchair users. We've involved our access group in that process, and also recognising the value of our volunteers that really assist us with our day-to-day operations. So those shelves are going to be a lot easier for our volunteers to navigate. The bottom shelf is an art tool, which seems simple, but a lot has changed in the provision of library shelving. It's not uncommon for us to put on an event and 130 people show up, so for us it's that balancing act of creating the necessary space to accommodate our community when we need to, but also not reducing our collection size. And, at last count it was about 80,000 books in that room, so it is one of the most significant collections within the Canterbury region. So we're really looking forward to undertaking that work. As part of it, we're going to be replacing some furniture, which is definitely past its use by date, and refreshing our children's area as well. We're going to be using some Vortex sound absorbing products. It's always a balance when you've got 800 people come through a space on a given day, and they need to, we would like all our community to be housed comfortably, but there are times when noise levels vary, so we're looking at some ways of making that space more comfortable, at least in the interim until we do our extension. In terms of continuity of library services over that time, we're going to be utilising the mobile community hub van, and we're going to be delivering some services out of there on site. So members of the public will still be able to come and engage with us in a reduced service. We're asking that the community holds on to their library books over that time or returns them at another site. We're currently working on a communications plan for this project. That began today when I spoke on Campus FM this morning. We've got a newsletter which is going out later today, and then our comms team are also working to communicate that closure to the community as well. So finally, point 4.4, which is about our makerspace. So our Tinker Zone has now launched. We opened the soft launch on the 17th of February. It offers a variety of experiences, including sewing machines, overlockers, 3D printing, and some other emerging technologies, including for digital creative production, so people can come in and do some video editing. They can use some software to record podcasts and other things. So huge demand within our community for that, and there's a real economic benefit to offering these technologies. It's about capacity building, within the community, and it's providing a space for people to come in and they can prototype something that they can then 3D print. From experience, when I previously worked at Selwyn District Council, when we launched this service, people were printing farming components, there were irrigation adapters and all sorts of things. So there's a real economic benefit to offering these technologies in a library setting. And so you can come in and effectively get a ticket and have some training on how to use a sewing machine. Councillor Kings is a card carrying Tinker Zone handy. Yeah, so that's really around health and safety induction, and once people are inducted, they can come in and they can use some of that technology. We also will have drop-in sessions. We actually had one today, which was really successful, where people can come in, and if they've got a project at home that they're working on, they need to repair some clothes or do some other things, they can come in and a librarian will assist them during that drop-in session. So This is just the start for us really, and you know, there is a large demand in the community for these technologies, and we are offering this at Rangiora to start with, but we do have plans to offer a similar offering at Kaipoi. We actually already have some sewing machines there, and at Oxford as well. So happy to take questions.
Lovely, thank you, Luke. In terms of the volunteer program, is that just in Rangiora or is it that in all the libraries?
Yeah, we utilise volunteers across our whole network. You know, it's a really important. It's important for us. You know, we get a lot out of it, but our volunteers also do as well. It's social inclusion. You know, that community that's built around the library. At Rangiora, you know, they come in the morning and then they finish up, and then they're over the road having a cup of tea. Yeah. So yeah, it's a really valuable way of utilising that community, building community around our space.
Excellent. I was fortunate to pop into the library today and speak with Renee, who was extremely passionate about the Tinker Zone. And I didn't realise, because on the report it showed the Tinker Zone card, but I didn't realise on the back you can either be a pro, semi-pro or an amateur, and you have to go through the various induction programs. So I would certainly encourage people to go through that. Who has a question? Thank you, Councillor Williams.
Just to fulfil my knowledge a wee bit, what's the garage band?
Yeah, good question. So GarageBand is a piece of software based on a computer that enables you to record music. So you can come along and you can play a simulated piano on the screen that will have the keys, and so you can actually record songs that way.
Thank you.
Very popular with young people.
Yeah, thank you for adding to my knowledge.
Apple program.
You can still be the rock star, Paul.
I'll bring my trumpet.
Yeah. Councillor Rubin.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Luke, in paragraph 4.2.6, you note that the mobile community hub, do I take it that's sort of a mobile library service, or it's being used as such?
Yeah, so there's the mobile van that the community team.
Right, that little.
Yes, that's correct. Yeah. So we think that we can use, we can use some of our own furniture to make that a bit more comfortable for library services, to deliver some key library services. So we might be able to use that van to deliver a story time, to the community, or we might be able to have some furniture in that van, holding books or being permission books from it. So we can do mobile book issuing, so we can effectively go anywhere in the district and issue books using a Wi-Fi or using an internet connection.
Okay, my question really is that the van is going to be used for up to 3 hours a day. Given that you've got staff available, could that van not be used during normal library opening hours? Outside the library?
Outside of the closed? Yeah, absolutely. So it's a question of
being used all day, basically.
Right. Well, the staff will still have their back of house duties that they'll be completing. So the books will come in and they'll need to be processed, and the staff will contribute to other work behind the scenes. They also rotate between our libraries. So we didn't want to overcommit ourselves, accounting for sickness as well.
Right. I thought I heard you say that you were asking members to keep their books at home and not return them.
Yes, but new books, particularly at that time as we come into end of financial year, the book deliveries increase, and so our staff also spend time processing those books and getting them ready for delivery. So they're a backing up, they're an administration task.
Normally they'd also be operating the library, which is closed. So my question is, could not some of them operate out of the van during normal opening hours, when the library would normally be open?
I think that is absolutely the intention. Also note that some of the library staff are going to be helping with the actual books as well. So there'll be, I think, 3 staff that are going to be working alongside to assist. But yeah, absolutely. And if we can utilise the van more and we can deliver more programs, that's absolutely what we'll do. But we have to be a little bit flexible, because some of that's going to rely on good weather. It's going to rely on the availability of those staff. So we've got the van there, and we'll absolutely use all the staff we can to keep delivering as many services as we can, utilising that. And that might be at Rangiora here, or it might be that we go and do outreach services and things like that as well. So it will be a little bit flexible as we see how long it's actually going to take. The contractors are also giving us sort of a worst case scenario on how long it's going to take, and we're hoping that they're going to be able to be a little bit quicker.
Yes, I was thinking of them being at Rangiora outside the library.
Yeah, and absolutely, that's
so
still
you're
the
saying
intention.
it may be, and it may work.
We're just going to have to wait and see. We don't know how many people are going to interact with the van if we have it there, and how that might work. There's options of putting gazebos up on the lawn outside and doing story time outside under the sun if the weather's good as well. So we're just going to build that program as we get closer to the date when the contractors are coming in, and then we'll advertise what it is that we think we're going to be able to do through the normal open channels.
Okay, thank you. Next one.
Someone else?
Thank you.
Okay.
You said Councillor Mills, right?
Yes.
No, you said that, thank you, I thought I did the first one wrong. Don't want to jump in front of anyone. So look, just taking you back to the Tinker Zone, so so from what I understand, so we had a soft launch like last week, and and the proper launch will be after the zoning project is completed. With regard to the inductions, how does one go about, like, do they have to book? Can they just front up to one? Are they running all the time? How often are they? Like, if I went to youth council tonight and said, hey, there's this really cool thing happening, and all of a sudden I get questions of, oh, how do I, when do I, how does it work? Who do I talk to? So, yes.
Well, it's basically it'd be fabulous to communicate this to youth council, which is also our intention. So they can book via the website, or they can come in during one of the drop-in sessions if it's relatively quiet and they might be able to do an induction then.
So the drop-in sessions are going to be on the public launch?
Yes, so that we've started those, so they're twice a week, so Mondays and Thursdays, I believe.
So as far as the soft launch goes, that's just basically anybody who's in the know who happens to be frequenting the library, and then the public launch will be to the rest of the people who haven't realized that they should be having serious FOMO. Yes. Okay, thank you.
Councillor Blakey.
Oh, very quick. Disposal of the shelves. You remember that certain people want to get their movies on them when they're available. How do we know that how that process is?
Yeah, sure. So in Workspaces is our select vendor leading that process. So they're going to be recycling those shelving products. So where possible, they're going to be tearing them down without causing damage to them. Yeah. They will then be placed into metal recycling skips, which will be at the rear of the library. Now, what we can do is put some aside if there's something.
Come to you.
Yeah, if you connect with me.
We will be putting some aside. There's a lot there, so that's no problem at all. And we might chuck some inside storage just on the outskirts of the district. We usually do that just in case there's some use for them in the future, or whether we can get any value out of them in the future, and we leave them there for a year or two. There's so much there though that we're not going to keep it all. We'd fill up the whole entire Saltwater Creek hall if we did that, but yeah, there'll be some floating around.
But as you know, some of it is in a better state than others. It ranges from collapsing to probably on its last legs, within that continuum. But yeah, absolutely heavy for it to support a life outside of life.
Thank you, Luke. I'll move from the chair if there's no other questions. Who would like to second the motion, please? Thank you, Councillor Mellons. I'll just speak very briefly. It seems to be, I'll coin Councillor Redmond's comment, core service. And I think certainly the libraries is a core and a very valuable service to the community. It benefits so many people. And in fact, when I was with Renee today, she was proudly telling me about the sewing machines which could be used by, because I always think of my mum's sewing machine where you always had the foot pedal. These sewing machines are capable of being used by somebody that didn't have to use the foot pedal. They could use some other means of actually making it work. So it just goes to show that the libraries team also take into account accessibility issues and in terms of providing services to the community. We're not just books, we're all about helping people learn, and it's just wonderful skills that you're passing on. So congratulations on this report and to your team. Like Renee, and that you could certainly see the passion in her in regards to her trying to get me involved in sewing machines and the 3D printer. So well done to her.
She's ex-Christchurch like she worked at Tūranga in the central city,
So
she has a lot of experience.
Yeah, no, it's just her level of enthusiasm. It's just wonderful. So yeah, and it was Councillor Mellons who seconded.
It's a joy to see the evolution of library services over time. You know, and as Mr. Chair has said, libraries are so much more than books, but at their heart, it's always people. And I cannot wait to see how the uptake of these new advancements, shall we call it, how those go. It will be good to see the upgrade of that shelving at long last, if it's been a couple of years in the making. And to reward the public for being without their beloved library for a couple of weeks, they will get some really cool, fun stuff on the other side of it. And I think you're going to have a really big uptake of that. And I'll certainly make sure and shout it from the rooftops myself. And I might line up for a few inductions as well.
Great.
Thank you.
Yeah, Councillor Whitman.
I'd like to move an amendment, Mr. Chair, by adding a D. Notes, library staff will endeavour to offer a reduced service on site whilst the library is closed for shelving replacement.
Would anybody like to move?
Do we have to actually do that, or if the mover and seconder agree to the amendment?
We can do that as
Since
well.
the vote hasn't been taken, could we do that?
I think it's actually in the report that it says that, but yeah, go on. We can add that in. Are you happy with, have you got the wording there? All right, we'll be happy with that. Thank you for that.
In that case, I'll speak in support of the recommendation with the addition of D. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right, thank you. Any other comments? All right, I'll move. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Those against say no. And that's carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
Champion. We now move on to aquatics update. Welcome, Matt.
Kia ora. So the best will last.
Yes, yeah, we are.
Excellent. I'll have the report as read. Main points are attendance down a little bit over the summer period, most noticeably because of the variable weather that we've had over that January period. Then there's an item in there about the most recent developments within the industry, noting the recent news article about AI lifeguarded systems being employed at Selwyn Pool. That's something we're keeping an eye on as part of our wider strategy around aquatics within the district. And happy to take any questions.
I'll start off with the questions. Indeed, 68,000 better than budget. How did you do that? Like you've had down to it in terms of the numbers, but you're still
love to bonk that. Part of the work that we've been doing around our Learn to Swim program. How do I sum it up neatly? We sell individual lessons, which is one-on-one, and that benefits a particular type of student. However, some people, and it does cost more, however, it's more efficient for us to run the business with 6 children in a class, and that's with the group lessons. And that's often how that's how the bulk of the program runs. Over time, we had more and more individual lessons on the books, and we've tried to push a lot more of those people back towards group lessons where appropriate. That drops our costs a little bit and allows for a better return on incomes.
In terms of the self-service kiosks, what's the view of the staff in regards to using that sort of system, the AI system?
They're all slightly different approaches. Most noticeably, I'll start with the AI system. That most noticeably in Selwyn, they noted that this doesn't replace the need for staff, as it is only a warning device and essentially a backup system. You still need a lifeguard to respond and take action. The self-serve kiosk could potentially over time eliminate the need for a person on customer service. However, there's only a limited amount of, AI keeps developing and it's better and better and better, but it's not there yet. So, yeah.
Thank you. Who else is? Thank you, Councillor Whitten.
I guess you don't have lifeguards working from home. I note in your report you refer to 15 new lifeguards. Has the market for employing staff, in particular lifeguards, improved? At one stage you couldn't find them for, ends teeth.
Definitely. Since the last, hailing back to the community team who were here earlier, since the last employment expo that we presented at, we almost needed to beat people off with the stick. It was, we had, I think, 60 applicants for around 8 or 9 positions, and so that is a complete turnaround from the position we had earlier. I think we're quite tightly tied to the unemployment figures, and when unemployment rises, we get more and more interest, and then when there's obviously more jobs, then there's more a higher a fight for the same pool of people. So at the moment we're quite spoiled for choice, and long may that continue, as that makes it a lot easier for us. But it's also around refining our working with our HR team to refine the process, the people that we're going out, the people that we're taking on, and making sure that we have the best fit and the best availability for those roles. I know that you might have seen in the newspapers or websites the last few days that Christchurch opened Parikiore towards the end of the year. We'll see whether that happens or not, but they're going to start their recruitment drive for that, and that will take a huge volume of people. And we're not hugely concerned out here. A lot of our staff live here and work here because this is their community. They live here, they're in this community, so we're quite comfortable there. Might we lose one or two? Absolutely, yeah. There'll always be eye and eye for moving through into new positions and moving up the ladder and all of that, and that's great if we can support people in their employment journey, but I'm not hugely concerned at this stage.
Overall, your numbers were down slightly. Is that mainly contributed by Oxford being more weather dependent rather than the covered pools?
Definitely, the covered pool's fairly stable. The Oxford pool had, I don't look at it that way, but I understand the weather's been a bit topsy-turvy, and so people don't particularly want to swim in an outdoor pool. Equally, there's a number of really lovely recreation opportunities in that area, and so people may choose to go for a train or down to the gorges and things like that. So there's a number of competing recreation opportunities in that area here.
I know Councillor Fulton's been tramping, so we can blame it on him.
Is there a possibility that potentially you could break the numbers down by pools in terms of, so as we can sort of track as to which pools are doing better than others and that sort of stuff? Is that possible?
Yeah, definitely. Maybe next time. For a future report.
Yeah, that'd be lovely. Councillor Mellons, and then Councillor
Just
Fulton.
a couple of questions, and thanks for a great report, Matt. Just going back to the clarification about the single lessons versus the group lessons. So which one was it that was making more income?
So there, I don't want to say there is a space for both of those solutions, but a group lesson for children that learn in that environment, a group lesson is more efficient for us to run as it's one person's time, and we're getting the income of six up to 6 families from that.
So they pay less for the group lesson?
They do pay less, but overall volume, it works out more beneficial for us.
Okay. Yeah, I thought I read that wrong. But now, also with regard to Oxford and Oxford pool usage, how have we gone? Do we know how the uptake of the family pass has been?
The seasonal pass. It was explained to me that I teed it at the wrong point. So I need to do a bit more work on that. Unfortunately, because we'd run out of time before the season to launch it, and it only makes sense to purchase one at the start of the season. I'm going to have to make a better effort to hit that mark through the year and get approval from from you guys to that before we go into next season. So.
No worries, I appreciate that you tried last time, I do recall that, but my actual question is, I've been asked to ask you if how we usually, I think it's on the closing day of the Oxford pool, that's usually a bring your dog to the pool day. Is that going to happen this year?
It's on Facebook already, so yeah, absolutely, it's loaded as a Facebook event. I might have a quiet word to our comms team to maybe broadcast that a bit louder. But yes, there's on the final day, 3 till 5, we'll be doing the annual dog day. We generally run chlorine down in the morning so that the water's a bit more manageable. The filtration system's not turning over, so there's no impact on the filtration system. Generally charge $5 a dog, and we have a rip-roaring time with our 4-legged friends.
Fantastic. There will be some happy doglets out there, I can tell you. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Filbert.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I thank you, Matt. Picking up on the Oxford swimming numbers and usage, I spent a bit of time down there with the neighbouring gym, so watched this operation with interest. Are there specifics in the numbers that suggest that actually that Oxford has different sort of demand for driving it, and weather's changeable, but people are always going to go to the cool gym on a hot day, not going to pay the price, and they're always going to stay away on a cold day. Is there any opportunity to work with community groups, even the gym itself, to drive more usage? We've got 500 members in that gym next door, and often things, and I see the pool numbers come and go. Could we think a bit more collectively and how we cross promote? Well, we'll certainly promoting the pool options at the gym, but
100%. One of the options that we were exploring was using one of the instructors for the gym to take aquarobics classes. We never quite got that landed in time, but that's definitely something we're keen to explore more, because the utilisation of the facilities ensure that we keep the places turning over and people involved. So it's really important to us.
Thank you. Just noting, I'm chair of the landowner group, not the operators, but I'm interested in that. So but it does seem pertinent.
Also, I appreciate you building a gym right beside that. It's going to knock the wind going right over the top of the pool, which will help us keep people in the pool and keep them warm. So appreciate it.
Sounds good. We would like to move the report. Receives the report. Here you go. Thank you, Councillor Redmond. Second, thank you, Councillor Blakey. Would you like to speak to that, please, Councillor Redmond?
Not really, Matt. A good report, and I endorse Chair's comment about a breakdown of the pool, just to see if there are any different variations. Would be good. I think the Oxford pool is really a gem. It's the only uncovered pool. And personally, on a hot summer's day, I prefer to be swimming outside in a pool than indoors under a roof. But anyhow, I might reflect my age. Anyhow, a good report, so I encourage colleagues to support it.
Thank you, Councillor. Thank you, Councillor Blakey. Any other comments? We'll put the recommendation. All those in favour, please say aye. No. Those against, please say no. It's carried. We'll now move on. There's no correspondence, I'm assuming. Portfolio updates with Green Space. Councillor Blakey.
Thank you. A couple of things, no particular order. The two access platforms at the beaches have been completed and have been very well received. So that little project is done. AgRag, which is the Ashley Gorge Reserve Advisory Group. I went up there on my Tangi Day representing Dan, who was multiple booked, of course, and had for their gala in the reserve there. It doubled in size from last year pretty much, and in fact the numbers there is not much short of our Trusilo Park by Tangi Day now, so they were all very, very pleased with that. Tikahaka, after several months of drama, we now, I think you all know, our manager has gone. We have been, as part of the settlement process, we are not allowed to discuss the conditions or anything else relating to his departure, so I will not. But I can say the place is humming at the moment. We are aiming not to replace him. The one thing, money is very tight down there at the moment, and for the second thing, the two ladies, our two senior rangers who have taken over joint management of the place, are doing it absolutely capably, and in fact better than it was done when the manager was there. So we're leaving that in situ at the moment, and we'll see how that goes for 6 or 12 months. Food forest at Pines Beach. TKT allocated a little bit of land for a mini food forest behind the Pines Beach Hall, and under Brent's tutelage that is now underway. They're starting work on that, so that's all good. Huria Reserve, progressing well. We have a big planting in about a month's time, on April the 5th, I think it is, and then another one in the spring, and they are huge plantings. We're putting, I've forgotten how many, 15,000 trees I think allocated for that. That will, should I say, that will be pretty much it. The money for Huria coming through from council runs out in 26-27, so it's almost time to say, okay, we've done a hell of a lot of work there, and we have to allow for maintenance down the track. So we just pause for a cup of tea at this stage, but it's going ahead in leaps and bounds. Wetlands, there's a wetland area behind south and slightly inland from Waikuku, which farmer Brian Stokes has leased for many years. ECAN have decided that's a wetland, and which sort of is on a wet winter, but isn't, for a bit like Lineside Road. So Brian has walked away from the lease. That is, so all you need to know there is that we have another wetland on our, or TKT has another wetland on its hands. Biodiversity Trust are interested in looking at it, and perhaps other groups as well. Basically, it's going. TKT hasn't got money to put into any direction. So, but we've got another 30-hectare wetland sitting down there now, which people will want to develop, I presume, down the track as a wetland. And that's me. Thank you.
Just a couple of questions, Councillor. In terms of the Huria Reserve, in terms of the funding, will there still be funding there available to actually do the education building and the carving centre and all that sort of stuff, or will you just continue until you run out of money? How will it work?
Somewhere in between.
Okay.
The carving building thing was always on the never. That wasn't finalised in any way. That the 5 years of available funding would buy into that. Just the entrance thingy bobs and planting.
And the entranceway, is that going to be you're seeing some issues? It was going to be
the rebuild. It's been completely rebuilt. It's no cost to us. It was defective materials, and Fastgrass are pulling the whole thing to bits and rebuilding it at their cost.
Wow. And in terms of bird life, is there any monitoring of bird life? Has it increased or decreased?
I'm not sure it's been monitored, but it's definitely improved, yes. Okay. And so's the gecko and lizards and everything else are in there already. Yeah.
All right, excellent. We'll look forward to seeing Tui there one day.
Yeah, one day.
I note that 7.2, Councillor Brian has now gone offline, so we can't hear a report from him. So in terms of my community development wellbeing update, I've already sent it through, and I'd just like to add to the comment with regard to the Pines Beach Food Forest. I was asked by the residents group to actually come up with a design which I put together, and I specifically looked at the environment within Pines Beach, the water table and that sort of thing, and presented to that residents group last year. And it's really thanks to your group, Councillor, that you've provided that land so as we can actually turn it and add value to that community. Already the residents group put a note out on Facebook last week, and there's cardboard coming in to kill the grass, mulch from ECAN and Corrections Department are already working down there on a regular basis to actually clean up that whole area all ready for planting in the next couple of months. The other thing I'd like to just mention is the Kaipoi Garden Club conducted their garden competition, and I tell you what, they really have made Kaipoi more beautiful than it already is. And if you have a look in today's paper, you'll see Ezra. He's featured in there in relation to winning the Top Garden Award. And the other thing I'd like you to have a look at in terms of email that I've sent through is the community wellbeing's feedback that I asked them for. It's certainly eye-opening in terms of their feedback in regards to issues with housing, rising living costs, health issues and that sort of stuff. Well worth having a look at. Moving on, going back to Waimakariri Arts and Culture, Councillor Blackie.
Not a lot to report. Waipat had a very big all morning long meeting last week, and we hammered out our SOI and our MOU and all that other bureaucracy stuff that you have to do on a committee these days, and working on the our arts facilitator. And we have, of course, the new one now, Mel. She was there, introduced herself, and she's going to be excellent. Did we have any info about her background? She's an ex-district councillor from Clutha, so she's well versed in intricacies of council bureaucracy, and it's going to be and good artistic input as well. She's going to be excellent in that job. So that we've got all our paperwork sorted, more or less. What else? The bridge project in Kaiapoi, that's been handed to Waipat as well. It's now working on the progress that as fast as possible. Waipat are doing the artistic bit in conjunction with the bridge committee, which we've set up, which includes council staff and community board staff, and then the family that have very kindly donated the funding. So that's getting legs and growing fast. We aim to get the whole thing done this year.
Wow.
So watch this space.
Good stuff. Any questions of council? No, we're moving on to matter for information. Who would like to move that community centre approval to consult? Yep, anybody would like to move? Come on. Yes, thank you, Councillor Blakey. Second, Councillor Mellings. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Those against say no. There don't seem to be any questions or urgent business, so the next meeting will be on the 18th of March. Thank you very much, Courtney. Thank you, Chris, for looking after